What is up, Watch fam? Happy Friday, and welcome to this week's Liquor Run. I am Christian from Theo and Harris, and you are?
I'm Rolly
from Theo and Harris. Today, we're going to be jumping into this, we're going to continue jumping into this beautiful bottle of what?
This is a Volnay Red Burgundy, France.
Really delicious stuff. And we're going to be talking about women and watches and the very interesting, dynamic and very interesting dialogue between the two. Let's get into it. All right, before we jump into it, quick wristwatch check. What are you wearing, Daddy-O?
The old lady continues. Another week.
Faded out.
Faded.
I love that pink.
She's getting, even more faded, right?
Yeah. It's almost turning like there's no color.
Yeah, that's right. She's fading out.
I love it. I'm wearing a Rolex 1803 Date 8 in light gold.
I love this.
What made the Rolex Date 8 famous was the fact that it was blingy and ostentatious.
Yeah.
Not the fact that it had the day on it. This has the day, but none of the bling and ostentatious nature.
Love that.
Very funny.
Gorgeous.
I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So okay, let's keep drinking this, which was a wonderful gift. Right?
Rich upper crust life. 2 episodes.
Thank you so much.
You deserve it, my friend. Beautiful, beautiful bottle of wine.
Yep.
Just evokes so many wonderful memories.
Yep. And if you guys want to hear more about the memories, right?
Go back to our previous
last episode. We got super poetic about your journey in wine.
Yeah.
I love Liquor Run, probably one of my favorite series on the Theo and Harris channel. The last episode was phenomenal. It was irreplaceable. So I recommend you highly go in the description and watch the last video next. But let's jump into women and watches, right?
Yeah.
I want to hear your not opinion necessarily, but your impression, your experience. You're obviously you work. You're in the corporate world. Mm-hmm. You work with dozens of women, women that make a lot of money. So it's not a matter of they can't afford a Rolex, they can't afford to jump into FP Journe, they can't afford Patek. That's not the issue here. But you found, right? What have you found? I should ask the question.
I find that many of the women that I deal with, they shy away from Rolex,
right?
Because they think that the steel Rolex is for men only,
right? So
what do? They'll go out and buy a Michelle watch,
right? Interesting.
In lieu of a Rolex,
and they're not cheap.
And they're not cheap. Michelle,
they're like what, 1,500,
1,700? Yeah,
I mean they're expensive watches.
So I scratched my head. I said, "Wow, you could actually buy a vintage."
Oh, of course you can. A vintage OP. I mean, Oyster Perpetual. You're not that far away. And they can spend 4 times what they spent if they wanted to.
Right.
And
it's right. That's right. That's a really good point. They're not limited to 1,700, but this is where that's the pinnacle. And I've asked a couple of questions along the way, and I said, would you wear something like this? Well, no. Isn't that for a guy?
Interesting.
It's interesting because there's a huge market there. There's also an opportunity to educate.
It's half the population.
And these ladies want to have a great watch on their wrist. Right. They're not the Apple Watch wearers.
Right.
They appreciate having an analog watch.
Right.
They're looking to spend money.
And they're looking to have a little bit of a status symbol too.
And they want a status symbol. But they're looking at Michelle as the pinnacle of that statement.
What I find so funny is talk about marketing. I mean, the fact that Michelle watches are they're typically steel watches with diamond accents and very very typical humble nothing movements, right?
Right.
Nothings. And I think it's amazing that Michelle has been able to spin their otherwise, very pedestrian. I don't want to be nasty because it's not nasty, but like quote unquote, like kind of like valueless watches as luxury, and I don't know if it's been easy, but they've been able to do it. And Rolex, at least as we see it, has not been able to, at least at scale, convince women that they should be wearing a man's watch. They can't convince women that these watches aren't just for men.
You've got 2 segments. You've got the ladies that will absolutely wear the man's Rolex.
Oh, sure. I mean, it is cool.
You see it.
Many women think it's awesome. I mean,
you see it. You see it like on a tennis court.
Ellen Degeneres.
Yeah, absolutely. Ellen is a perfect example. Although I gotta say that Ellen really does appreciate fine watches.
She seems to, at least.
Incredible.
Right. We did a collection review on Ellen.
I know that. And I didn't see your episode.
You should check it out in the description. I mean, Ellen goes so far, not just a brand new gold Rolex. Ellen goes back to vintage 1960s solid gold Daytonas.
Incredible.
Like, Ellen's a watch lover.
Incredible. She loves watches. That's right.
But the difference is, and I don't put the burden on the consumer. I don't put the burden on the guy, or in this case, the woman. I put the burden on the dealers if you're going vintage, and on the brands if you're going new. Why haven't these brands dedicated more time to introducing and not, making women fall in love with watches? I mean, every effort that I see is just so half-assed. FP Journe has done a pretty good job. They've introduced some women's watches, a quartz watch called the Elegant. They've done a fairly good job. How many they've sold, I don't know. I know a lot of men with them as well, but I know they do have women's watches. But all in all, I so rarely see women interested in watches.
Yes.
And I'm like, I literally do this every single day.
Yes.
I could probably name every woman that I know that is vocally interested in watches. Anna, our editor, Cara Barrett from Hodinkee. There's one other one that I know. I know who her husband is. I just can't think of her name. But I'm talking like maybe I know 4 women. Mm-hmm. And I do this every single day that are vocally and actively interested in watches, and that to me is so sad because holy shit, so many of the Swiss watch industry's problems could be solved if they doubled their market share by, I don't know, like, we'll double, like men plus women. No, that's double. It's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a wonderful opportunity in the aftermarket. Sites like yours. I mean, not because I'm your dad, but I know that the level of quality of watches that you sell.
Yeah.
And if you can just, or if you can reach and educate women about the Rolex brand and the fact that you could wear a 36 millimeter steel watch. That's a beautiful watch. It looks wonderful on a woman's wrist.
It's class. Holy shit!
But so I've scratched my head for a couple of years now, and I say I don't understand.
Yeah.
Why?
Or how about our cousin? She does super well.
Yes.
And she wears, I think, either a yellow gold or a two-tone ladies Rolex. That at least in our conversation, she seems to have very little attachment to. Right. But I'm just like, hey, why don't you go get I'll get you a date.
Right.
Like that's Right. You're the boss,
right.
You run a big company. She spends a ton of money.
Right.
Get the date. It's funny. Yeah. Like I know her, and I know that if we could get her over the hump of, that's a man's watch. Right. Because she asked me, well, isn't that a man's watch?
No.
At the engagement party, she goes, isn't that a man's watch?
No.
I'm like, no. Of course not.
No.
Originally it was designed for men, but who cares? I think she would look phenomenal with a solid gold, white or yellow, Rolex Day presidential bracelet. Yes. She would just look sick.
Wonderful.
And I think that she is a great example of a consumer that Rolex really has, or Rolex or private dealers like myself have not been able to sway into saying, yep. This is a possibility for me.
You're right. I think car dealers do a better job of swaying people than I think a company like Rolex does.
What do you mean?
In other words, like Mercedes, BMW, they do a better job. Maybe because they spend more money in advertising.
Well, those cars aren't, at least as I see it, car brands aren't nearly as gender. They're not so much men or women. Mercedes, BMW, almost every brand that I can think of, it's very much so men and women. But there are very few men's cars.
But they're doing a better job of engaging the woman too,
of course,
and getting them in at a certain level and moving them up.
I see women in badass, 550, eyes all the time, which really, if you want to go by, what makes sense for, masculinity, typically, that's probably a quote unquote man's car. And yet BMW has done so well at making it very clear to women that, no, it's not.
No, it's
not. It's a badass car, and you're a badass.
And you're a badass.
That's cool.
I don't care what gender you are. It doesn't matter.
It's money. Like at the end of the day, sorry about it. Like, BMW and Mercedes and whoever, they understand that. It's about getting the most people in your brand and staying true to your brand.
Yeah. That's important. Staying true to your
staying
brand.
True, of course. And whereas other, these watch brands, they've really failed, man. I think that they've failed so much. There are many conclusions that we've given, but I think that our criticism and our observations are accurate. And that's important.
No, I think it's an opportunity. If anything, the dialogue is now on.
Yep.
Getting women involved in the watch world. Yep. Liberating. Just the thought process.
Yep.
To saying, hey, you know what? I can wear that Rolex, and no, it's not necessarily a man's watch. In fact, it's not a man's watch.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I can put it on my wrist. It'll look great.
Yep, that's it.
That's it.
Let's continue this conversation on the Theo and Harris Watch Fam Facebook page. Go ahead and click on the link in the description. Go over to the Theo and Harris Watch Fam Facebook. If you're not already a member, request membership. I will approve of your request, and you'll be able to engage in the conversation we're about to have about women and watches. I mean, does your wife wear a watch? Is your that's actually great. Anecdotally, what have you observed? What does your wife feel about watches? I know Mom likes watches. She always wears watches when she goes out.
Yes.
But Mom doesn't like watches enough to drop $5,000 on a watch.
Right.
She'll drop it on a purse.
She'll drop it on a purse.
It's very funny. But that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Join the Facebook group, and that's it. Cheers.
Cheers.